All right, we are live again. I am glad to see someone already in the waiting room. Khalil Gibran, I am glad that you're here. So we did have a small technical issue, but I'm glad that some of you have already joined in. So like I said before, just a preamble of what we're going to do. So this is the design that you should be familiar with because I left a trailer at the beginning and I hope you did watch it. So we wanted today to explore how you can actually do this kind of auditorium setting. So I'm going to cut through. So if I navigate across here, you should be able to see what is happening in here. So we want to see how you can actually achieve this kind of setup where you have a stage in this area and then some people sitting at various heights in this ground area, also at the top area. So for this kind of project, I want you to note that the ground floor is at this level right here, and then the things that we have done have been depressed under here. So you can see we have some facilities under here, and to just use the terrain much more efficiently. So let's go ahead and go and see what we have been doing really. So if I navigate to where we have been, so those of you who have missed, it's already live on YouTube. You can watch and see what's going on in there. So let me know down in the comments where you can hear me fine, whether you can see things, and I'll be happy to answer some of your questions as we go. So right now we have this thing which we have created, and we have created by the use of this section. So if I open up this section, you can see we have a simple sketch that demonstrates how the understanding of the auditorium kind of seating is actually feasible, or how it works. So you have someone here and they should be able to visually connect with people at this front area and people at the back, as well as those who are sitting at the galleries. So we do have this custom profile that we made here in ArchiCAD, and we want to also create the one which is at the back here. And like we did before, we will copy that and take it to the profile manager, which you can find by going to options, element attributes, and profile manager. So this is where you actually put your profile, and I'm going to create a new one. We already created the ones before, so this is just a recap. So let's create the second one. So I'm going to put in numbers such that it's easy for us to find it, because it will be at the top of the list. So if I say 01 and then I say auditorium sitting, maybe section 2, because we already did section 1, but it's the same process, no worries if you haven't watched the one before. So we say okay, and now we should paste in the things that we are doing. So I'm going to say Ctrl+V to paste, and here it is. So let's bring this to somewhere like here. This X mark is important, that's the origin, and whichever thing you put in here should be at the beginning point or the origin, such that whenever you are placing in this kind of profile, it's easy for you to know where you're at. So for example, if I take it to this other side, then the reference will shift along that X mark. So let me undo that, and I'm going to use a material which is more acceptable, something like the reinforced concrete, which should be ideal for this kind of auditorium setting because of the weight that it is going to be carrying. So I'm going to save this and making sure that it's going to be a wall. Yes, fine. I say save. And how do I place it in? Well, it's easy. I have to pick a wall, and here in the profiles, I'm going to change it to a custom. And for you to see well, I think I'm going to have to pick this wall settings tab or dialog box, such that we change it to the custom, and in the custom we can choose the thing we just created, which is this 01 auditorium section 2. So let's create that one. So it's the same thing like we did before, which is you continuing to draw. So you can see we have a warning sign here, and that's because it's going to be formed on another story. So we want to be able to make sure that the height, so let's now use like 0, I think, such that it's on the ground. We will adjust the heights later. So let's use this. We draw this one. I think the best thing was we should, if I scroll here, choose another kind of method of construction, which is the polygonal kind of method of construction. Thank you for joining us from Ethiopia. I can see you. Melaku, thank you for joining us as well. So let's do this, and we are going to have this, yes, something like that. Pretty cool, huh? So we should be having something like that. How do we see that? Let's go in section. It should be sitting at the ground, yes, something like that. But of course we have to move it up, and the best kind of way, I think, is for us to first identify what height this is, which is 1.5. So in 3D is where I need us to move it 1.5 vertically, such that we are able to move, you know, all the elements up such that you can see it. So the 1.5, so let's Control D to drag, and when you hold down Shift, you can lock in the y-axis so that you can be able to enter in the 1.5. So we have something like that, pretty insane, but we need to position it correctly in the section because it's interlocking. So with this selected, we need to take it backward to where it's supposed to be. Yeah, somewhere like here. So now it should be much more acceptable, and it should look how we actually envisioned it. We also wanted to multiply these seats such that we have people sitting on either side. So for those of you who have not seen how we did this, if we select these seats and we go to settings, you should have to see that these are actually ArchiCAD objects, which you can find under design. You can see we have something like object somewhere. Yeah, yes, now I have it open, so but it's under design. You should be able to see object, and it's called audience seating. So when you put in seating or audience, you should be able to see this kind of thing. And the main thing that the things that we did change included from the top here, changing the layout type to making sure that it is a straight one, and the seat arrangements, making sure that that is staggered, is not staggered but even. And then also the number of rows are 9, because those are the number of steps that we created, and the number of seats in one row are about 8. So these are things that you can change, but those, and it has so much more details that you can also alter, but those are the main things. And the distance between the rows was 900, which is the distance we used from one seat to another. 1 meter could also work if that's what you're interested in. Yes, thank you so much for joining us from Indonesia. I'm glad to hear from you, Gibran. So let's say okay, and now we are going to put this thing here. So let me make a copy. Remember, Ctrl Shift D is what you need to make a copy. Ctrl E to rotate, and now we have ourselves something here. And this is about 1.4, so 700 should work to centrally place this, although we have not followed this. Yes, something like 700 in that line should be able to work, so that's much more acceptable. So the minimum distance between this and that is 1.4, which is pretty good for people to cross each other as they are trying to navigate and find their seat. And if we mirror by Ctrl Shift M, we should be able to have that there. So in 3D, we have people sitting all over here. And if you so wished, you could add in more seats along this area. But I think for me, for my case, this will work. And as well, we should be able to create the seats which are behind here. And for some reason, ArchiCAD makes these other seats disappear when we elevate them. If we go to 3D, you can see that we already have this stuff up here, but in 2D it's not showing. When we go to the basement floor, you can see that we can't see a thing, and yet we created something in this area. So that's because ArchiCAD by default, we have this thing. If I go here in section, we have this thing at a height which the floor plan cuts off. Let's say measure, and then I say this is about 1.6 away from the ground. Yeah, so we are not able to see it because we have elevated it by that height. So how do we quickly make sure that we can see it, because we want to be able to adjust it or something like that? You can always go to document, and then there's something here called floor plan cut plane. So that's what you want to look out for. So when you go to this floor plan cut plane, you can increase this. So let me put in something like 1.6 and see if we are seeing anything. Yes, you see, that's what has happened. We can now see it. So if I change this, you can see that now it shows, and you can see this one is overhead. Let me say if I wanted to show cut. So these are different ways you can make this thing show. Yeah, so under floor plan and section, you can decide how these things are going to be shown. Let's show it as overall, such that we can be able to see the outline of what it looks like. So that's for the lower one. Now we want to create the upper one as well. So let me know down in the comments whether I am too fast or you are following just fine, and whether you do understand what we are doing. So now let's go up on the ground floor and do something. So I want to let you know that according to the section, because of the decisions that we made, we had to increase the headroom of the ground floor, the height. If I do press M for measure and put this thing here, you can see this is 5 meters high. Yes, and that's because of the height difference that we had to use here. Just for the case of demonstration, if I made a copy of this and took it up here just for demonstration, let's pick this level and put it here, and assuming we wanted to keep the same kind of profile here and there, and we had this guy sitting in this area and this other guy sitting in this area, you can see that already we are interrupting the sight line. If you can see that yellow line, I'm not sure whether it is quite clear for you, but if you can see that yellow line already, someone who is at the stage is not being seen because of people that are going to sit just after them. So you can see that that is what we want to avoid. So don't do that. Let's just grab these guys and delete them because we do not need them. So what you need is a higher headroom. So in this case, you can see I used 450 for the height. And if you are not using metrics, which is the system that I'm currently using, make sure that you go to options and then you go project preferences and go to working units. So in here you should be able to change to any other, whichever parameters that you guys have decided to use in your country, but millimeters is comfortable for me. Hope you also follow along just fine. So we have that. So I have 450 as the height, and of course that means that we might have a few more steps in here because it's quite dangerous for someone to just skip one step that's 450 millimeters high. But of course, those small steps are going to be only in the areas where we have the circulation, but in the areas where people are sitting, it's quite fine. So we have that kind of seating arrangement, which is inspired by the sight line, so being able to see. So we want to also create this, so I'm going to copy it and then say Ctrl+C and take it up to where this other side. So let me name this, is going to be auditorium. Remember, I need to put in some letters so it's easy for us to find. Let's say auditorium section 3, S3. I say okay. So now we can paste in by Ctrl+V, paste in, and put it in here and change the material to something that's going to be able to hold that weight of people sitting up there. And as well, I need to be able to have this as a wall. Make sure that that's checked and then say save. So once we have that saved, we should be able to find it when we go back here on the ground floor. Picking the wall tool, we should be able to draw like we did draw before. So let's change, make sure that it's the custom profile, and that custom profile is the S3, which we have just created. So change that here, or if you go to the settings by Ctrl+T, you should be able to get those parameters here, and you select that and select that kind of thing that you created in the profile manager. So now we want to be able to create this thing right here and place it in. Well, that looks good and okay, but in a section it should be misplaced, okay, because you know it's in the wrong place in the first place. So we have to move it up by, let's measure what this is. This is 2 meters. So I like to change it in 3D so you can see what we're actually doing. So I think it was 2 meters. I hope I do remember well. So Ctrl+D to drag, and with Shift, make sure to lock it in the Z-axis and make this 2 meters. So we have something going on here, which is pretty cool, but we need to also put it in the right place in the section, which is by moving backward by 3 meters. So we want to be able to go back here, and you can use the vertical plane or even this other plane. Just move it backward by in the x-axis, yeah, by 3 meters. So I'm avoiding moving it in section because in section we cannot select all the 3 that I have just drawn. So it's better for me to move it around here such that, you know, now I can see where it's going. So that's it. So we are already getting this kind of thing, which is pretty easy to do. So if you are getting value, make sure that you like and comment, and let me know in case you want some clarity, because this is for you and to help you in your workflow. So let's do this. Let's now create some steps to see what changes. If we make these, put these steps up here, what changes? So let's create a copy. I'm going to go here to the basement, yeah. But this floor is not supposed to be called basement. Let's change that. I don't think it's supposed to be basement. It's supposed to be a lower ground, but you know, never mind. Let's say, but if you, in case you wanted to change your stories, you know what to do. Right click and go to story settings, and here you can adjust. You can see that we have this as 3 meters, the next one as 5 meters because of the height difference that we did want to achieve, and then we have 3 and 3, the basic one, yeah. So let's get to see what that looks like, and like we did before, you can see that we cannot be able to see this thing, so you can always adjust the height of that ground floor in order to accommodate you being able to see what that, you know, gallery is going to be like. But for now, I don't think I need that. So all I need is being able to see that my section looks pretty fine. So we can even bring this object in section. So Control D to drag. I'm going to make a copy and bring this point, which is at the extreme end, and take it out to here. Yeah. So that we have something like that. And because of the height difference, if I do measure, this is 450 and we originally had 1.5, and you can see that these seats are much fewer than the ones before. So we need to get rid of these two, I guess, perhaps even three. So 9 minus 3, that should get us to what? I'm so terrible at mathematics, but that would be 7 or 6, I think. Yes, 6. Then we need to have this as 450. Yes, so now when we say okay, we should be able to have something like that. Yes, like just like how we imagine it. Now let's see what that looks like in 3D, and you can already feel the presence of an audience in this kind of setup. Yeah, you can already see that. So you can go ahead and, you know, increase the number of people who are sitting in this area. Yes, just like I told you, ArchiCAD makes things disappear which are higher than where the cutting plane is. So we might want to, in case we wanted to change a little bit of these things, we might want to adjust the heights. Let me see. Oh, these objects are still on the basement, which is very unnatural, and that's because we have here an odd height, which is 5.3 meters. So we want to adjust that. So let's say that this furniture is not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be actually on the ground or even on the mezzanine, which is the first floor. So let's just put them there, and of course you have to come back in section and drag it down. So if we drag this down to make sure that it's on the right height, then with it still selected, you can see that it's on the first floor, but this time it's, you know, the height has changed to a negative instead. So now if I go to floor plan, we should be able to go to the first floor or the mezzanine floor or the gallery floor and see where that those seats are actually on the right place. Then as well, I need to make sure that we are following together. Let me know down in the comments if you're still here with me. Now we want to also simplify this, because, you know, ArchiCAD does a lot of things with this stuff. So we can go to document and let's go graphic override and simplified plan, just to have it in black and white. And you can see that that's much better representation in my opinion. So that's one way that we can actually you know, simplify the look of this thing and get rid of all the colors just by putting there an override. Yeah, thanks so much, Odek. I'm glad that you're following with me. So that's a quick thing. You can always remove these guys in 3D in case they are disturbing you, which you can do here in 3D representation. You can turn this off, and the shadow as well, so they disappear in 3D but they're still in the section. So that's actually the main kind of thing that I wanted to share with you guys. So if we decide to now increase, let's say we want to increase the number of these seats. It's easy, you know how to do it. You increase it by, it's not easy to find the node, but at the extreme ends you can be able to find it by when you're holding down shift. But when you go to the settings, you should be able to find a place here where you can increase the number of seats in a row, perhaps 10 or something like that. So that's an easy thing that you can do. So you can, you know, place it in, and then you can mirror to have some this side and some this other side. So that's the main idea that I liked to share with you. And as well, we looking at the section, you can have a section in 3D. If I enable 3D Cutaway, which is this icon here on the standard toolbar, I guess, yes, it's a standard toolbar, and then bring this all the way up, you can already sense this kind of thing where you have the seats, and everyone is visually connecting to the stage or kind of thing or auditorium. So in case there's anything that you want me to clarify, let me know in the comments. I can see Mohammed is asking, could you put some sample handrail between your seats, between seats? I'm not quite sure what you mean, handrails between seats, but the handrail that I believe is quite simple for us to put is this one here, which is here in railing. So if we go to railing, we can put a railing, especially on this other side, which let's pick a railing, a simple one. And I think I should use the presets. So I think we have here a glass railing, perhaps this one or this one, whichever you choose. It should be able to work, and you can adjust some things like this, how thick is this handrail, things like that, but just keeping in mind that it should not obstruct the people who are going to be watching. Let's put it in and see what that means. Let's just use the defaults. You can always come back and change them. Let's say here, yes, we have something like that. So you want people to visually connect. So if I go to section here, you can see that people should actually visually connect. I think this guy needs to see from the eyes, not from the mouth. I don't know if you did notice that. If I undo, this guy was seeing from the mouth. Anyway, I digress. So now we have this, so you can see this guy can see on top of this railing. What if we had this guy in this other seat? So let's make a copy of this guy under here. Could you put you're saying, what if we wanted to use a ramp in the circulation area? That's a good one, a good question. So here we have this kind of thing, and if I make a copy of this eyesight and bring it to this guy is going to be seeing but through the railing. Yeah, so it's important for us to, you know, make it open or glass, but of course we have to consider both safety for these people and also for visual connection. So that's what we have for this kind of thing. So that's the railing that I immediately thought about. But if you wanted it between the seats, I don't know why you would want that. Maybe because of the current situation of COVID, perhaps people have to social distance and you have to add some railing in between, but that I believe has to be done manually. So if I select this one of these sets, we can actually expand this. Let's see, what if we made this larger, the distance between one of them. Okay, let's say seat width, seat depth, seat height, and arm width. So these are the distances that you actually look out for to see what works for you. And I believe it should be somewhere like the distance between the rows. No, not the distance between the rows, but the distance, the horizontal distance is what I'm interested in, which I should be able to find somewhere here. Seat width. Let's put something here like, in my opinion, something like 1.2 meters. 1.2. Let's see. What happens? Okay. Unfortunately, it becomes way out of proportion, which is not what we want. So I wanted us to see whether we can actually have space in between. So we shall explore that, and perhaps in the next live session we should be able to see something there. And what I wanted to have was so please don't try this. What I wanted to have was space in between, but you can see that the seats have become a bit larger, which is out of proportion. But you can always, you know, I wanted to have the space, the seats independent, and then we can put something in between, which will be a little bit manual. Okay, I am glad you like the design process. Thank you so much, John Monero. And yeah, I think I covered most of it. The next live session is going to be next Sunday, God willing. So I hope to see you there. Meanwhile, you can be typing your questions about this kind of session, what you think about what you have seen today. How different would it be? So someone is asking, what if we wanted a ramp? I think it's easy actually, because we can make a ramp here, but we have to do it manually. It's not going to be automated. Or if you wanted, you can create a different profile as well if you wanted to make it easy for you to edit. For example, if we created a ramp here, let's do this. If we created a ramp, I'm going to do this by doing a simple ramp here. But of course, this ramp is going to be a little bit steeper because, you know, the steps are 150 millimeter high, and that's what you get when you mix ramps with these other things. So I'm going to have this. Yes, so this perhaps is your kind of new ramp. So let's copy this and put it in a new one, in a new kind of thing, and say, you know what, we need a ramp. And we also put a number before that. Perhaps this is number 2. And in here, we're going to paste this. Yeah. Paste this by Ctrl V. And let's have it here. Just a simple for demonstration. Of course, it should have been beta, maybe well designed, or depending on whether you want it to be solid or something like that. So I'd imagine you wanted something like this or something a little bit different. It's all up to you. It's a design decision that you can make. But let's just make this a different material. Now, the tricky bit is that the new material we created in has to be stronger than the one we created. So let's use one here. Let me save this. I hope it will be stronger. And in this case, we can't use the wall as well because there will be clashing of the same material. So we want to save it as a, like, I don't know, column. So anything that is easier for you to use. So now let's pick that column and just place it in, especially on the basement layer, on the basement plan. So let's go under here, basement, and we want to be able to place that column in there. So let's pick the column tool, yes, and put it in here. So change that material to the custom, which is this third option, and then change the name to the ramp, which is that ramp, and let's just put it somewhere here. And oh, unfortunately this is not going to work because the column is vertical, so unfortunate for us. So we are going to use a different material altogether. So options, element attributes, and profile manager, instead of having used the column, we should have used like a beam. Let's edit this. If we click edit, let's use a beam and see if that works. If it doesn't, I have another method for you. Let's grab the beam, make sure that we change it to a custom one, which is going to be this third option, and then make sure that it's the ramp. And yes, that's more like what I envisioned. So the beam will work for us. So we have something like that, and let's put it here, making sure, you know what, let's pick a section and cut through it so we see where it is. So Control D, I'll drag this to this place, and here in section we should be able to see where that profile that we created is. Let's see. Okay, still loading, and there we are. That's the thing that we created, and it's floating in the air, but we want to be able to move that and take it down. So I'm going to move this, Control D, down here. So now we should be able to have something going on. Let's go in 3D and I see what I'm talking about. So already we have something going on here. So you can see that we have a ramp and we have something going on here, which is steps. So let's make this ramp as well show up in this other area. So I'm just picking the same ramp, so it looks like I need to change the reference thing. Okay, anyway, the easiest way is just duplicate this, and once you have it here you can adjust where this point is. Yeah, so you can see that we already have that kind of arrangement. Let's reduce this a little bit such that we do not interfere with our seats. So already we should have something going on here. Yeah, a ramp mixed with a so the other process that I had was to just create using a morph. So let's pick a morph here and work in 3D as well. Let's just have a morph here, just make something simple. So we have ourselves a morph surface, just using those three nodes, this intersection, and then give it a thickness, you know, something like this. And then the distance, add in the distance. So in our case it's about 700. So already you can see that ramp, and you can duplicate it across the stair, and of course you can always rotate it in order to have it, you know, representing the space correctly. So something like that. So that's what I did think about. Let me know if that's what you were inquiring. Mr. Kaguta Kabu. So that's the ramp thing. So either you can use a morph in order to create that, or you can use a custom profile, which is much easier because it covers a wider area. And morphs can also be a bit more heavy, so depending on the capacity of a machine you might want to consider something else, which is, you know, a profile in this case. So thank you so much for being here live with me. I am glad, and see you next Sunday, where I'm going to explore something interesting. If you have seen this design before, which I did share on my on my channel, you should be able to have seen this. So I want to explore with you how to create this amazing staircase, which includes, you know, some good materials and how you create these railings. So I'll see you then. Okay.